I was 15 years old when my father looked me dead in the face and said, "Get out. I don't want a twisted daughter in this house." And just like that I was gone. No bags packed, no plan. Just rain pouring from the sky like God himself was watching the mess unfold. My name is Avery Collins. I'm 28 now. But that night, I was a kid standing barefoot on a porch in the middle of an October thunderstorm in suburban Ohio, trying to figure out how your own family can erase you in under 5 minutes. And here's the kicker. They threw me out over a lie. A lie my younger sister, Brianna Collins, told so convincingly that my parents never even looked at me long enough to question it. 3 hours after I walked out into that storm, a police officer called my parents from the hospital. I'd been hit by a car. And when my father walked into that hospital room and saw who was sitting beside my bed, his hands started shaking so hard he had to grab the wall to steady himself. But before I tell you who that was, and why everything flipped that night, let me take you back to where the cracks started forming. Because storms don't just appear out of nowhere. They build. Growing up, I learned something real quick. In the Collins house, Brianna's feelings were the main event. I was background music. When I was 11, I won first place at the regional science fair. Out of 42 kids, my water purification prototype actually worked. I was so proud I could barely breathe. I burst through the front door waving that blue ribbon like I'd just won the Super Bowl. "Mom, I won." She hugged me, smiled, said, "That's amazing, Avery." And for exactly 8 seconds I felt seen. Then Brianna walked in. 8 years old, face red, tears ready to drop like clockwork. I messed up my dance spin. Everybody laughed at me. Boom, spotlight switched. Mom dropped me mid-hug like I was a half-finished core and rushed to Brianna. "Oh baby, it's okay. You're sensitive. They don't understand you." I stood there holding that ribbon. Nobody asked to see it. That was the pattern. Brianna was fragile. Brianna needed extra support. Brianna felt things deeper. And apparently I didn't feel anything at all. So I learned to shrink. I celebrated in silence. I stopped asking for rides to competitions. I stopped showing report cards. Straight A's didn't compete with Brianna's emotional emergencies. By 14, I was already emotionally checking out of my own house. I told myself, just survive until college. 2 more years. I had no idea I wouldn't even make it to 16 under that roof. Brianna's lies started small. Borrowing my clothes and denying it. Breaking stuff and blaming me. Money disappearing from Mom's wallet. One day, $50 vanished. Brianna told my parents she saw me near Mom's purse. I hadn't even been home. Dad called me into his office, like I was some corporate employee being written up. "Did you take it?" "No." "Your sister says you did." "She's lying." That was the moment I made a fatal mistake. I accused the golden child. Dad's face hardened. "Don't you dare call your sister a liar." I lost my phone for a month. Got grounded. Lost my chance at a summer STEM program I'd earned. And Brianna. She smiled at me from the staircase when our parents weren't looking. That's when I knew. She wasn't just emotional. She was calculating, and she had figured out something powerful. If she cried first, she won. Junior year, AP Chemistry. There was a guy named Ethan Walker, sweet, kinda clueless, needed help balancing equations. I helped him after class a few times. That's it. But Brianna had a full-blown fantasy crush on him, like writing. Brianna Walker. In her notebook-type delusion. One afternoon, Ethan asked if we could study together for midterms. She saw us talking, and something shifted in her. It wasn't jealousy. It was rage. Cold, quiet rage. And when Brianna went silent, that's when you should have been scared. A week later, she started crying downstairs during a storm warning dinner. The sobbing was dramatic. Violent. Dad yelled for me to come down. She showed them screenshots, fake group chats. Messages supposedly from my account calling her pathetic, desperate, saying Ethan would never like her. It looked real. My name. My profile picture. But I didn't write them. I didn't send those, I said. Dad slammed his fist on the mantel. "Stop lying." Then she lifted her sleeve. A bruise. She pushed me down the stairs. My entire world tilted. I had never laid a hand on her. Not once. But she cried harder. And my parents didn't hesitate. Dad's voice went flat. cold. You need help. Something is wrong with you. Sick. That's the word he used. You're sick. And then he pointed to the door. Thunder cracked behind him like a cinematic effect. I thought it was a bluff. It wasn't. The rain seconds I was soaked. My phone was at 8% battery. No one answered. I walked. No coat hood. No umbrella. Just 15 years old and unwanted. I kept thinking he'd open the door and call me back. He didn't. I crossed an intersection near Route 17. Headlights came out of nowhere. Brakes screamed. And then, impact. I remember hitting the hood. Then pavement. Then nothing. The last thing I heard before blacking out was a woman's voice screaming, "Oh my God, sweetheart, stay with me?" And when I opened my eyes days later in a hospital room, that same woman was sitting beside my bed. She wasn't just anyone. She was Dr. Eleanor Whitmore, one of the most respected education reform scholars in the state. And she was about to become the reason my entire life flipped upside down. When I finally woke up, the first thing I saw wasn't my parents. It wasn't my sister. It wasn't even a nurse. It was her. Sitting in a stiff hospital chair, still wearing the same navy blazer from the night of the accident. Hair pulled back. Glasses slightly crooked like she hadn't slept in days. The woman who hit me with her car. The woman who refused to leave. "My name is Dr. Eleanor Whitmore," she said gently when my eyes fluttered open. "You're safe, Avery." Safe. That word felt foreign. Like a language I used to speak but forgot. Machines beeped steadily around me. My head throbbed like someone had installed a jackhammer inside my skull. I tried to move and pain shot through my side. "You had a severe concussion," she continued. "Minor internal bleeding. A fractured rib. You're lucky." Lucky. That word almost made me laugh. A nurse stepped in. Her parents arrived. My chest tightened. Dr. Whitmore's jaw hardened slightly. "Send them in." The door opened. My dad walked in first. He looked smaller. Still tall. Still broad-shouldered. But something about him had shrunk. My mom followed, eyes red but not swollen. Like she'd cried just enough to look concerned. And behind them, Brianna. Perfect posture. Tear-streaked face. The performance wasn't over. Dad cleared his throat. "Avery?" I didn't answer. Dr. Whitmore stood up. She didn't introduce herself politely. She didn't soften her tone. She went straight for the jugular. She was found alone in a thunderstorm at 10:58 p.m. soaking wet, disoriented. "She's 15. Why wasn't she home?" Silence. Dad shifted. "It was a family issue." "A family issue?" Dr. Whitmore repeated slowly. "The kind that puts a minor on the street during a flood advisory." Mom stepped in. "We didn't think she'd actually." "Actually what?" Dr. Whitmore cut her off. "Actually leave. Actually get hurt. Actually nearly die." The room felt electric. Brianna spoke up softly. "She's been unstable lately." Unstable. There it was again. Sick. Unstable. Broken. Dr. Whitmore turned to her, calm. Direct. "What did she do?" Brianna hesitated for a split second. "That's how you know someone's lying." "She bullied me?" she whispered. "Spread rumors. Pushed me." Dr. Whitmore didn't blink. "And that justified expelling her into a storm." Dad snapped. "We were disciplining her." Dr. Whitmore's voice dropped into something lethal. "Discipline doesn't involve abandonment." Then she said something that changed everything. "I've already contacted a social worker." Dad stiffened. "That won't be necessary." "Oh, I assure you," she said evenly, "it is." Over the next few days, I drifted in and out of consciousness. Every time I woke up, Dr. Whitmore was there. She brought books. She adjusted my pillows. She spoke to me like I mattered. My parents came once. They stood at the end of my bed like distant relatives at a funeral. "We're glad you're okay," Mom said. No apology. No explanation. Brianna didn't come at all. On day 4, a social worker named Karen sat beside my bed. She asked gentle questions. What happened that night? I told her everything. The screenshots. The bruise. The lies. The pattern that had been building for years. Karen listened carefully. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she asked, "Do you feel safe going home?" And for the first time in my life I answered honestly. No. The word felt terrifying and freeing. Dr. Whitmore stepped forward. "She can stay with me," she said. The room went quiet. Karen blinked. You understand what that entails? I do, she replied. I've already started temporary guardian paperwork. I stared at her. Why? I asked. She sat on the edge of my bed. Because someone did it for me once, she said softly. When I was 17, I was told I was too much. A teacher took me in, changed my entire life. She held my gaze. You are not sick, Avery. You are not unstable. You are brilliant, and I will not let a 15-year-old with that kind of mind believe otherwise. Something inside me cracked open. Not pain. Relief. When my discharge day came, my parents were there again. Dad tried to sound authoritative. We'll take her home. I shook my head. The room froze. I'm not coming back. Mom's face went pale. Avery, don't be dramatic. I'm not. Dad looked furious. You're a minor. Karen stepped in smoothly. Temporary placement has been approved pending review. Dad looked at Dr. Whitmore like she'd committed treason. You're interfering in our family. She didn't flinch. No, I'm protecting a child. And just like that, I walked out of that hospital beside a woman who had accidentally hit me with her car. And intentionally saved my life. Dr. Whitmore's home was quiet. Bookshelves lined the walls. Classical music played softly. Plants sat by sunlit windows. No yelling, no accusations, no walking on eggshells. She gave me the guest room. You can paint it if you want, she said casually. Paint it? I'd never been allowed to change anything in my old room without asking permission 3 times. The first night there, I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, because it was too quiet. No emotional explosions, no midnight arguments, no tension humming under the surface. Just peace. And peace felt unfamiliar. I transferred schools. Started fresh. No one knew about Brianna. No one knew about being thrown out. I was just Avery Collins, the girl who liked chemistry, the girl who asked too many questions, the girl who suddenly had a mentor introducing her to university lectures and research conferences. Dr. Whitmore insisted I call her Eleanor at home. But something shifted over time. She wasn't just a mentor. She showed up to every parent-teacher meeting, every competition, every awards ceremony. She framed my achievements, clapped the loudest, and when I graduated high school as valedictorian, she cried harder than anyone. You were never sick, she whispered. You were surviving. Through old classmates, I heard things. Brianna told people I'd transferred to a special program. Later, she upgraded the lie. She said I'd moved out of state. Eventually, she told people I'd died in a car accident when I was 15. The irony, my parents never corrected her. They removed my photos. Erased me. Like I'd never existed. And for a long time, that hurt more than the storm. But here's where it gets wild. Fast forward 13 years. I'm 28, director of a scholarship foundation I built for kids who were abandoned by their families. And guess who's graduating from college? Brianna. And guess who gets invited to be the keynote speaker? Me. And they have no idea. 13 years later, I walked into an auditorium that smelled like cheap perfume, fresh programs, and fake pride. Rows of folding chairs, caps and gowns everywhere, parents holding bouquets like trophies, and right there in row 4, my old life. My mother, Patricia Collins, sitting tall with that tight-lipped smile she wore when she wanted the world to think everything was perfect. My father, Richard Collins, hands folded, jaw locked, and 2 seats down from them Brianna. Gold honor cords, perfect curls, face glowing with graduation day confidence. She had no idea. None of them did. The program listed the keynote speaker as Avery Collins, founder and director, Second Horizon Initiative. No one paid attention to speaker bios. People only cared about their kid walking across that stage. That's why this hit so hard. After high school, I earned a full ride to a state university. I majored in education policy and child advocacy. Eleanor, my Eleanor, wrote my recommendation letters like she was writing about a Nobel Prize candidate. I graduated summa cum laude. Then I built something from the wreckage. Second Horizon Initiative. A scholarship fund for teens who'd been abandoned, kicked out, or emotionally destroyed by their families. Kids like me. In 5 years we raised over $250,000, helped 60 students stay in school. Some of them had slept in cars. Some of them had scars no one could see. I didn't build it for revenge. I built it because pain without purpose turns poisonous. and I refused to let mine rot inside me. When my colleague Marcus told me which university wanted me as keynote speaker, my pulse actually stuttered. Riverside State University. Brianna's school. You don't have to do it, Marcus said. I stared at the email. The theme: resilience and opportunity. Oh, I was qualified. I just wasn't sure if I was ready. That night I told Eleanor. She didn't rush me. She just asked one question. Are you doing this to hurt them, or to heal yourself? That question hit deep, because if I went in angry, I'd lose. But if I went in grounded, I'd win without saying a single cruel word. So I accepted. On one condition. Full control of my speech. Standing behind the curtain, I could hear the crowd buzzing. Families laughing. Phones snapping photos. That fake inspirational playlist playing overhead. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I thought they would. Instead, I felt steady. Eleanor stood in the front row. Emerald dress. Pearl earrings. Looking at me like I already won. President Harris stepped to the mic. Today's keynote speaker has dedicated her life to ensuring every student gets a second chance. Applause started. Polite at first. Then louder. Please welcome Avery Collins. I stepped into the light. And time slowed. Brianna was clapping, smiling casually. Then she looked up. Her smile froze, like someone hit pause on her face. Her hands stopped mid-clap. Confusion. Then realization. Then something darker. Fear. Behind her, my dad leaned forward, squinting. My mom's mouth parted slightly. And when I reached the podium and said, "Good afternoon," my voice carried across the room. Clear, steady, familiar. My dad's back straightened like he'd been electrocuted. He knew that voice. I watched recognition crawl across his face. Slow. Horrified. I didn't rush. I didn't tremble. I didn't look at them directly yet. I want to tell you about a 15-year-old girl, I began. The auditorium quieted. She was told she was unstable. Sick. Broken. A ripple moved through the crowd. She was accused of things she didn't do. And one night, during a storm, she was told to leave her home. Mom's hand gripped Dad's sleeve. Brianna went still. She wandered alone in the rain for hours. No money. No coat. No safe place to go. You could hear someone whisper, "Oh my God." She was hit by a car. Silence. But the woman driving that car stopped, and instead of walking away, she stepped in. I finally looked at Eleanor. Docker. Eleanor Whitmore didn't just save that girl's life, she gave her one. The crowd turned to look at Eleanor. She gave a small nod. Then I dropped it. That 15-year-old girl was me. Gasps. Actual gasps. My father's face drained of color. My mother's eyes filled instantly. Brianna looked like the ground had vanished beneath her chair. I stand here today not because my family believed in me. I continued. I stand here because one person did. My voice didn't crack. I learned something important after that storm. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the person who chooses you. Students were nodding. Some parents looked uncomfortable. I built Second Horizon Initiative for kids who've been told they're too much. Too difficult. Too broken. I paused. Because being rejected doesn't define you. What you build after it does. Standing ovations started from the student section. Slow. Then stronger. People rose. Not everyone. My dad stayed seated, head down, hands covering his face. My mom stood halfway, clapping weakly. Brianna didn't move at all. She looked exposed, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't controlling the narrative. The ceremony continued. Name after name. Then, Brianna Collins. She walked across that stage with a tight smile. Applause was thin, not hateful. Just different. The energy shifted. Whispers followed her back to her seat. She had spent 13 years rewriting history. And in 15 minutes, truth burned through it. After the ceremony, Marcus approached me backstage. "They're asking to see you." I knew who they meant. Eleanor squeezed my hand. "On your terms," she reminded me, so I walked to the side entrance. And there they were, my past, waiting. They were standing under a concrete overhang near the side entrance. Not the proud, polished family from the front row seats. No. They looked wrecked. Dad's shoulders were slumped like someone had unplugged him. Mom's mascara had surrendered. Brianna stood slightly behind them, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. I stopped 3 feet away. Close enough to hear them breathe, far enough to remind them they didn't get access anymore. You wanted to talk? I asked. My voice wasn't angry. That's what shocked them. It was calm. And calm is more terrifying than rage. Dad swallowed first. Avery, we didn't know you'd be the speaker. I'm aware. Mom tried to step forward. You look successful. I am. Silence. Brianna finally spoke. I didn't think you'd ever come back. I didn't. I replied evenly. I came to speak. Not to revisit. Dad's voice cracked. We made a mistake. A mistake, like they forgot to send an email. Like they overcooked dinner. You threw your 15-year-old daughter into a storm. I said softly. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. He flinched. Mom's lips trembled. We thought you were unstable, she whispered. You thought what was convenient. That one landed. Brianna stepped forward. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. I lied. 3 words. 13 years late. I made the screenshots. I bruised myself. I told them you pushed me. Dad closed his eyes. Mom gasped like she hadn't known. But I saw it. She had known something wasn't right. She just didn't want to deal with it. I was jealous. Brianna continued. Ethan liked you. Teachers liked you. You didn't have to beg for attention. I did. There it was. Not trauma. Not instability. Envy. And entitlement. I didn't think Dad would actually kick you out, she whispered. I stared at her. You watched me walk into a storm. She couldn't meet my eyes. Dad's voice broke. We regretted it. Every day. Did you? I asked. Because you took down my photos. You let people think I died. Mom's face went pale. We didn't know how to explain it. So you buried me. The silence answered for them. Brianna wiped her face. I told people you passed away. It was easier than admitting what I did. The irony almost made me laugh. You killed me socially to protect yourself. I was 16, she cried. You were 25 when you told that lie at work events. I replied. That shut her up. Growth isn't about age. It's about accountability, and she had delayed hers for over a decade. Dad stepped forward cautiously. Please, let's try again. We can fix this. There it was. The delusion that reconciliation erases damage. You don't fix abandonment, I said calmly. You live with the consequence of it. Mom reached for my hand. I stepped back. We were under stress. Brianna was going through things. So was I. My voice finally sharpened, but I learned early that my pain didn't qualify as urgent in this family. They had no answer for that. I forgive you, I said. All 3 of them blinked. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. Dad looked confused. I don't wake up angry anymore, I continued. I don't carry rage. I built something meaningful from what happened. I gestured subtly toward the auditorium behind me. But you don't get to enter my life because you finally feel guilty. Mom started crying harder. We want to know you. You had 15 years. Silence again. Brianna's voice cracked. I lost friends today. That's called consequence. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't cold. I was factual. And facts hit harder than insults. Dad's hands were shaking now. Is there anything we can do? Yes, I said. Hope flickered in their eyes. Respect my decision. That's it. No grand demand, no dramatic speech. Just a boundary. Brianna sobbed. I'm sorry. I know, I said. And for the first time in my life I meant it. But sorry doesn't rewind storms. Eleanor stepped beside me. Not possessive, not aggressive, just present. Dad looked at her. You saved her. Eleanor's voice was steady. She saved herself. I just opened the door. That's the thing they never understood. They thought I survived because of luck. I survived because I refused to stay small. I looked at them one last time. I hope you all get therapy, I said gently, and then I walked away, not shaking, not breaking, walking, with my head high. Within hours, clips of my speech started circulating online. Students posted it, parents shared it. By morning, it had over 70,000 views. Messages poured in. I was kicked out too. My sister did something similar. Thank you for saying what most people won't. And then something else happened. Brianna's friends started messaging me. Screenshots. Apparently, she'd told multiple versions of my death story over the years. Different dates, different fake details. People felt manipulated. One message said, "I can't believe she lied about her sister being dead." That's sick. The irony again, the word they used for me boomeranged. 2 weeks later, unannounced, he looked older. Tired. Like guilt had been eating him alive. "I need to say this face to face," he said. I let him sit. "I failed you?" "Yes," I replied. "I chose the easier child, the quieter truth." That one surprised me. He understood more than I thought. "But I can't undo it," he said. "No," I agreed. "You can't. Can you ever see us again?" I leaned back. "I don't hate you," I said. "But I don't trust you. And without trust, there's no relationship." He nodded slowly. That was the first honest moment we'd ever shared. He left quietly. No begging, no shouting. Just consequence. She sent emails. Long ones, confessions, jealousy, insecurity, therapy appointments. I read them. I didn't respond much, not because I'm heartless, but because healing doesn't require reopening wounds. Sometimes closure is distance. And just when I thought the storm was fully behind me, something unexpected happened that forced me to question whether walking away was truly the final chapter. A year passed. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't bracing for impact. Second Horizon Initiative expanded to 10 universities. We crossed 400,000 in distributed scholarships. 93 students funded. 93 storms interrupted. I moved into a townhouse across the river from downtown. Floor to ceiling windows. Plants everywhere. Soft jazz on Sunday mornings. Peace that didn't feel temporary. Eleanor still came over for dinner twice a week. She wasn't Ducker Whitmore anymore. She was mom, chosen, earned, solid. And my biological family, they existed in the background like an old radio playing in another room. Low volume. Not silent, but not controlling the space. Until one night, my phone rang. And I saw Brianna's name. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something in my gut shifted. So I answered. She wasn't crying theatrically. She wasn't whispering for sympathy. She sounded empty. "Dad had a heart attack." The words hit flat. Not dramatic, just factual. "He's alive," she added quickly. But it was bad. Silence stretched between us. "They're asking about you," she said. And there it was. The pull. Not guilt, not obligation. Just that complicated tug of unfinished history. I didn't rush to the hospital. I didn't panic. But I didn't feel nothing either. That surprised me. Because I'd convinced myself I was done emotionally. But detachment isn't deletion. He was still my father. The man who taught me how to ride a bike. The man who once carried me on his shoulders at a county fair. And also, the man who told me to get out. Humans aren't simple. Trauma doesn't erase every good memory. It just stains them. "Is he stable?" I asked. "Yes." "Is he conscious?" "Yes." "Okay." She hesitated. "Are you coming?" There it was. The test, the boundary line. I took a breath. "I'll come tomorrow." Not for reconciliation. Not for performance. For closure. For me. Walking into that building again felt like déjà vu wrapped in irony. Different wing. Different year. Same antiseptic air. Same fluorescent lighting. Brianna was sitting outside his room. She stood when she saw me. She looked older. Thinner. Less curated. No audience. No performance. Just a woman carrying consequence. "Thank you for coming," she said. I nodded. No hug, no dramatics. Just acknowledgement. Dad was propped up in a hospital bed, IV in his arm. Skin pale, monitors beeping steadily. He looked up when I stepped inside, and for a moment, he looked scared. Not of me, of losing time. "Avery," he said quietly. I stayed near the door at first. "How are you feeling?" Like I got hit by a truck. The irony didn't escape either of us. A faint almost smile flickered between us. Then faded. "I don't know how much time I have left," he said bluntly. "You're 62, not 90, I replied. He chuckled weakly. Then his eyes filled. "I keep replaying that night," he said. Over and over, silence. I was angry. I was tired. I chose the easier version of the story. That again. Easier. I wanted peace in the house, and believing Brianna was easier than challenging her. I appreciated the honesty. "I failed you," he said. "And I failed her too, because I let her become someone who thought manipulation was power." That was new. Ownership. Not excuse. Ownership. Old me would have melted. Would have rushed forward. Would have grabbed his hand and cried. But I wasn't that 15-year-old anymore. I'm not angry, I told him. He looked surprised. I'm not coming back either. He nodded slowly. I figured. I built a life, I continued. And it's healthy, I won't risk destabilizing it. I understand. And for the first time in my memory, he actually did. She looked older too. More fragile. She froze when she saw me. I wasn't sure you'd come? I wasn't either. She approached carefully. I should have stopped him that night. Yes, I said. Tears slipped down her face. I was afraid of conflict. And I paid for that. No accusation in my tone. Just fact, she nodded. I'm in therapy now, she said softly. That surprised me. I should have gone years ago. Yes, I agreed again. Growth is strange like that. It doesn't undo damage. But it changes the air. She hovered near the window, not defensive, not dramatic, just present. At one point she spoke. I volunteer at a youth counseling center now. I glanced at her. Why? Because I didn't know how to handle jealousy. Or insecurity, and I hurt you because of it. That was the first time she didn't say, I was young, she said. I hurt you. Language matters. After an hour, I stood. I'm glad you're recovering. I told Dad. He looked up. Will I see you again? I paused. Long enough for the answer to matter. Yes, I said carefully, but slowly. Not moving back in, not holidays, not pretending, slow, controlled, intentional. He nodded. That was enough for now. Brianna caught me before I left. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. You already have it, I replied. Her eyes widened. But forgiveness isn't access. She nodded. I know. And trust. She asked quietly. That takes time. She didn't argue. That alone told me she was different. Driving home, my chest felt tight. Not regret. Not resentment. Just heaviness. I called Eleanor. I went. I told her. And I didn't break. She smiled through the phone. You weren't going there to break. You were going there to see who you are now. And she was right. The visit didn't undo my boundary. It reinforced it. Because now it wasn't fueled by pain. It was fueled by clarity. But here's where it gets complicated. Because slow reconciliation sounds mature. It sounds healthy. But when old patterns try to creep back in, when subtle manipulation resurfaces, you have to decide whether grace has limits. And trust me, it does. You know what nobody tells you about setting boundaries. The moment you soften them, even slightly, people start testing the edges. At first, everything seemed respectful. Dad followed his cardiologist's plan. Mom kept going to therapy. Brianna sent one short text every few weeks. No guilt trips. No emotional ambushes. Just controlled, measured contact. And I was proud of myself. Because I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. It started with a harmless request. Mom called one Sunday afternoon. We're having a small dinner for your father's birthday, she said carefully. Just immediate family, nothing big. Immediate family. The phrase lingered in the air. We'd love for you to come, she added quickly. No pressure. No pressure always means pressure. I paused. I'll think about it. And that was the first mistake. Because, I'll think about it, invites negotiation. That night Brianna texted. It would mean a lot to him. There it was. Emotional leverage. Not aggressive. Just strategic. I stared at the message. A year ago that would have hooked me. But now, I saw it clearly. Meaningful to him doesn't automatically mean healthy for me. I responded. I'm glad he's recovering. I'm not ready for family gatherings. Her reply came slower. I understand. But something about it felt rehearsed. They posted photos. Smiling around a cake, captioned, grateful for second chances. That phrase again. Second chances. I built a foundation around that concept. They were now using it as branding. I didn't comment, didn't react. But internally, I noted the shift. The narrative was subtly changing. From, "What hurt Avery?" to, "We're healing as a family." Without me there. That's when I realized something critical. They weren't trying to repair the past. They were trying to soften their image. 3 weeks later, I received an email. From my foundation's general inbox. Subject: partnership opportunity. It was from Dad, formal tone, professional signature. He owned a mid-sized construction firm. Would love to sponsor a scholarship under the Collins Family Legacy Fund. I stared at the screen. Legacy. My stomach turned. He wasn't reaching out as my father. He was reaching out as a donor, a branding opportunity. I scheduled a call. Because clarity requires confrontation, we met on Zoom, not father-daughter, director-donor. I thought this could be a way to support what you've built, he said. Under your family name, I replied calmly. Yes, we'd like to contribute 50 zalazan annually. It was a significant number. It could fund multiple students. It was tempting, but something felt off. Why now? I asked. He hesitated. Our company could use a positive community story. There it was. Honesty. But also agenda. So this is PR. It's philanthropy. It's positioning, I corrected. He didn't deny it. If I accepted the money, their name would attach to the foundation. Press releases, interviews, shared stages. The narrative would shift from, she built this after being abandoned, to, a family reconciles and gives back, clean, polished, marketable, but incomplete. And I didn't survive that storm to let my story be sanitized. I appreciate the offer, I said. But I can't accept funding that rebrands history. His jaw tightened slightly. It's not about rebranding. It is, I said gently, and that's okay. But my work can't be your redemption campaign. Silence. That's unfair, he said. I almost laughed. Unfair. The word circled the room like irony on display. What was unfair? I replied calmly, was being 15 and homeless in a storm. He exhaled slowly. I'm trying. I know, I said. But trying doesn't erase power dynamics. He nodded, and for the first time, he didn't push. Later that week, Brianna called. You turned down the sponsorship. Yes, she sighed. It would have helped repair things. For who? For all of us. That phrase again. All of us. I leaned back. Repair requires accountability, not publicity. She went quiet. Then she said something revealing. Mom was really hoping it would show people we're not bad parents. There it was. Reputation, not relationship. That was the moment clarity snapped into place. They didn't want closeness. They wanted absolution. That night I sat with Eleanor on the back patio, wine glasses between us. City lights in the distance. They're trying to rewrite the ending, I said. She nodded knowingly. People often confuse reconciliation with image management. I don't want to punish them, I said. Then don't, she replied. Just don't let them use you. That line hit deep. Because boundaries aren't about revenge, they're about protection. I sent one email. Clear, calm, direct. I'm open to limited personal contact. I'm not open to shared branding, public partnerships, or narrative adjustments. My foundation stands independent. No anger, no accusation, just structure. Dad replied with one line, understood, and for once, he meant it. Reconciliation isn't a straight line. It's a negotiation between past damage and present growth. Some people change because they face themselves. Some people adjust because circumstances force them, and it takes wisdom to know the difference. My family wasn't evil. They were flawed, fear-driven, image-conscious. But I refused to let that define my future. Again, but life wasn't done teaching me yet. Because, just when I thought I had mastered boundaries, one of my scholarship students forced me to confront something I wasn't expecting, something that made me question whether I'd hardened too much. Her name was Maya Thompson. 17. Straight A student. Accepted into 3 colleges, and sleeping in her car. When her application hit my desk at Second Horizon Initiative, it felt like déjà vu in paper form. Removed from home after ongoing conflict, it read, Parent alleges defiance and instability. That word again. Instability. I circled it with my pen. History doesn't repeat. It echoes. Maya came in for an in-person interview. Hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands. Guarded eyes. Alert. Defensive. Tired. I recognized that posture immediately. It's the posture of someone who expects rejection. Tell me what happened, I said gently. She hesitated. Then it poured out. Her mom accused her of lying about grades, of manipulating teachers, of being dramatic. She said I needed psychiatric help, Maya whispered, and then she told me to leave if I hated living there so much. My chest tightened. Storms don't always come with rain. Sometimes they come with slammed doors. I could go back, she said quickly. If I apologize, for what? I asked. For being difficult. There it was. That word again. Difficult. I leaned back slowly. Do you think you were difficult? She stared at the floor. I don't know anymore. That's what emotional gaslighting does. It scrambles your internal compass. After she left, I sat alone in my office. Because something about her story tugged at me. She still wanted to go back, even after being pushed out, even after the accusations, and I had walked away completely. Was I strong, or was I rigid? There's a fine line between self-protection and emotional shutdown, and I had to ask myself honestly, had I crossed it? That night, I told her about Maya, about the apology, about the possibility of returning home. She wants to try again, I said. And what do you think? Eleanor asked. I think she deserves safety. That's not what I asked. I exhaled. I think I never gave my family a real chance. She raised an eyebrow. You gave them 13 years, true. But was distance the only solution? Was reconciliation always weakness? Or had I built such strong walls that no one could enter? Even if they had changed. I called Maya back in. I'm going to ask you something hard. I said, okay. If your mother doesn't change, what happens? She swallowed. I leave for good. And if she does? Her eyes flickered. Then maybe we try again. There was courage in that, risk, but courage. And I realized something uncomfortable. Healing isn't one size fits all. What worked for me might not be her path. 3 days later, Maya's mother requested a joint meeting. I almost declined on Maya's behalf. But I didn't. They came in together. Tension filled the room like static. Her mom looked exhausted. Not evil, not dramatic, just overwhelmed. I thought she was disrespecting me, her mom admitted. I panicked. I reacted. No deflection, no fake tears. Just raw admission. I shouldn't have told her to leave. Maya's eyes filled. I didn't want to. Her mom whispered. I just didn't know how to parent without control. That line hit me harder than I expected. Parent without control. Wasn't that exactly what my dad had failed at? He chose authority over understanding, peace over truth. After they left, I sat at my desk for a long time, because watching them try, imperfectly, awkwardly, stirred something in me. My parents had tried recently. Clumsily, imperfectly, but they had tried, and I had kept everything at arm's length, not out of spite, out of safety. But safety can turn into isolation if you're not careful. Did I owe them another chance? No. Did I want one? That was harder. Because here's the truth no one talks about. When you've built your strength alone, letting someone back in feels like surrender. But sometimes it's not surrender, sometimes it's evolution. That night, I stared at my phone for 20 minutes. Then I typed, would you be open to family therapy together? I sent it before I could overthink it. My heart pounded harder than it had during the graduation speech. Dad replied first. Yes. Mom replied next. We've been hoping you'd ask. Brianna, absolutely, no defensiveness. No agenda. Just openness, and that terrified me more than conflict ever had. Walking away is clear, simple, clean. Trying again, messy, unpredictable, risky. But growth isn't about comfort, it's about courage. And maybe I was strong enough now to risk a different ending. But family therapy doesn't magically fix 13 years of damage. It digs things up. It exposes patterns. It forces truths into the light. And in our very first session, something came out that none of us were prepared for. I thought I was ready. I thought I'd processed the storm. I thought I knew the story front to back. But family therapy, that's not a highlight reel. That's excavation. And in the very first session, something surfaced that flipped everything upside down. We sat in a circle, neutral office, soft lectures, Dad on my left, Mom across from me, Brianna beside her. Dr. Copland, mid-50s, calm voice, sharp eyes, opened with one question. What do each of you believe happened that night? Simple, direct, dangerous. Dad went first. I reacted out of anger, he said. I believed Brianna without verifying. I failed Avery, clear. Owned. Mom followed. I avoided conflict. I chose silence over protection. Again, accountability. Then Brianna inhaled slowly, and everything shifted. I lied, she said, but not the way you think. The room stilled. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. What do you mean? Dr. Kaplan asked. Brianna's fingers trembled slightly. I didn't plan to get Avery kicked out. I felt my jaw tighten. You told them I manipulated teachers, I said evenly. I told them you told me you were leaving for college early, and that you couldn't wait to get away from us. Confusion flickered. That's not a lie, I said. She shook her head. I left out context. Of course she did. Selective truth, the cleanest weapon. I was failing classes, she admitted quietly. Badly. Dad's head snapped toward her. You told us you were fine. I wasn't. Mom looked stunned. I was scared you'd compare me to Avery again. Brianna continued. So when I heard her say she couldn't wait to leave, I panicked. Dr. Kaplan leaned forward. Panic about what? That once she left, I'd be the only one left for you to measure. The words hung heavy. Comparison, competition, fear. It wasn't jealousy in the shallow sense. It was insecurity turned toxic. I thought if you saw her as manipulative, Brianna whispered, you wouldn't notice how much I was struggling. Silence swallowed the room. This wasn't about ruining me. It was about hiding herself. That didn't excuse it, but it reframed it. Dad looked shaken. You could have told us, he said. You don't listen when we struggle, she replied softly. And that sentence, that one hit everyone. Dr. Kaplan didn't let it slide. Tell me about listening, he said. Brianna glanced at me. When Avery won awards, everything stopped. It became about achievement. Mom's face crumpled. We were proud. I know, Brianna said. But pride felt like pressure. And suddenly, something uncomfortable clicked. I hadn't just been the scapegoat. I had also been the golden child. Different forms of damage. Same root. Control through expectation. It would have been easy to stay defensive. To say, so you destroyed my life because you felt overshadowed. But therapy isn't about winning, it's about understanding. I didn't know you felt that way, I said slowly. You weren't supposed to, she replied. You were busy surviving too. That stopped me cold. Because she was right, we were both navigating pressure, just in opposite ways. I created competition, he admitted quietly. I thought pushing you both would make you stronger. It made us scared, Brianna said. It made me desperate, I added. Dr. Kaplan nodded. Fear-based parenting often produces either perfectionism or rebellion. We both exhaled at the same time. Different coping mechanisms, same source. Let's be clear. Understanding isn't absolution. I still spent a night in a literal storm. I still built my life from ground zero. But context changes how you carry pain. Instead of villain versus victim, it became a story about dysfunction, about pressure, about emotional immaturity, and that's complicated. Dr. Kaplan looked at me. What do you need now? Not what happened. Not who was wrong. What do you need? I inhaled deeply. Consistency, I said. No more image management, no more silent comparisons, just honesty. Dad nodded immediately. Mom wiped her tears. Brianna whispered, I can do that. We didn't hug dramatically. There was no cinematic music. Healing doesn't look like that. It looks like scheduling another session. Like awkward car rides. Like slow trust. But something fundamental changed. Not because they begged. Not because I surrendered. But because the truth finally came out clean. For years, I thought my power came from independence. From walking away. From building something without them. And that power was real. But this was different. This was strength without armor. The ability to re-enter a space that once broke you. Without shrinking, without exploding. Just standing steady. We're not perfect. We're not magically healed. But we're honest. Dad no longer introduces me as or successful daughter. He says, Avery built something incredible. Subtle difference. Huge impact. Mom speaks up now, even when it's uncomfortable. And Brianna. She graduated community college. Not because I overshadowed her. Not because Dad pushed her. But because she chose it. I still run Second Horizon Initiative. We just crossed 1 million in scholarship funding. One of our newest recipients. Maya. She's attending college this fall. And yes, she moved back home. With boundaries, with family therapy, with structure. Not every storm ends in separation. Some end in reconstruction. If you've stayed with me this long, here's what I'll tell you straight. Sometimes people fail you because they're broken. Sometimes they hurt you because they're scared. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is build your own life first, then decide, from a place of power, whether they get to be part of it. That night in the storm didn't define me. It introduced me to myself. And that's a second horizon worth fighting for.